Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining the Alliance of Women Directors for this conversation. I am Dr. Rachel Raimist, AWD Icon member and episodic director. I am thrilled to be talking today with Mimi Leader about her Emmy-nominated work on the morning show streaming now on Apple TV+. Mimi, it is such an honor to chat with you today.
Thank you, and it's an honor to talk to you as well, and real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. So to get started, I just want to share that your work has really made us laugh, made us cry, made us think, and moved us in so many ways. And we are grateful for you, for your inspiration, and for you taking your time to share with AWD today. So let's start with a big congratulations.
Thank
Morning
you.
show, 60 nominations, including Outstanding Drama Series and Outstanding Director for a Drama for your episode, The Overview Effect, the finale of season 3.
Yes, thank you. It's an honor. It really is. When your peers acknowledge you, someone's watching. People who know how incredibly satisfying and difficult and painful and amazing, that doing the work and what it takes, and that somebody felt something. So that really makes me feel very gratified.
The morning show, as you know, is topical, it's relevant, it's not preachy, it's compelling. And, I believe the characters are just so deliciously flawed. I want to know what you love about the show. What made you want to direct the morning show?
Yeah. Well, what made me want to direct the morning show is that I've always loved the idea of what is behind the curtain, what is the real, what is in front of the curtain, what we presentationally. I was a huge fan of the Larry Sanders Show, and I had worked with Michael Ellenberg on when he was at HBO on Luck and The Leftovers. And Michael and I went to dinner, and he said, I've got this show, this book that Brian Stelter wrote called Top of the Morning, about a morning news show and behind the scenes. And Jen and Reese are attached, and I'd love for you to consider. And I said, yes. It's the world I love, because it's just such a rich, invigorating, crazy world. Waking up to a morning show, we're putting on our makeup, we're showering, and it's all very light and fluffy, and then it's not. And so I said yes, and I went off to make On the Basis of Sex. They sold it, and here we are. And it has been 3 seasons. We're shooting our 4th season as we speak, and it takes a long time. We'd shoot 22, 24 episodes of ER in half the time we shoot today. Everything's changed in a way. But yes, I'm very attracted to that world and very flawed people.
What have been some of your favorite storylines and character journeys? I know it may be hard to pick in so many seasons, but is there something that stands out, or any of
Well,
the topics? Because it's such a topical show and so relevant,
well,
and
each season has some of my favorites. When we were conceiving the series with Carrie Aaron, all of a sudden Me Too happened. And so there was our season. And it was a very compelling and very very powerful storyline, that was happening globally, and that affected people in the workplace, people not in the workplace, people in the world, and sexual abuse in the workplace. It was just a very rich subject right in front of us. And so when I was conceiving the look of this piece, I I kept thinking, well, like it's very light and it's very bright. When you watch these shows, everyone looks perfect. And then behind the scenes, everyone is completely complex. Their complexities of emotions are just out front and center. So I wanted behind the scene to have very modeling and uh very contrasty, very saturated compared to the brightness when we're in front of the morning shows. And the show has evolved in 3 seasons as to what it is. And that's been very exciting. So first season was Me Too, which was a very difficult and powerful um, storyline. So developing the look of the show was very exciting. The tone of the show, which was a drama laced with comedy, and walking that fine line and finding that, just hitting that sweet spot, was really a difficult discovery during the pilot and actually during the season. You put on a pair of shoes and they don't quite fit, and then you walk around in them for a little bit, and oh, they're starting to feel better, and you just are discovering what works. And that's the excitement of telling a story and being open to what the story is, and listening to the breadcrumbs that are left with this because of the writing. I mean, the writing leaves the breadcrumbs. It leaves breadcrumbs for the writers. They write a scene and then it tells them where to go, sometimes without them even knowing. But the first season, I would say the finale was really special. And Hannah's storyline, and Mitch Kessler, Alex Levy. I mean, all of the characters were completely immersed in this world. And I must say, we have an extraordinary cast we have 10 acting nominations this season, and every single one of them, and our day players and our recurring supporting cast, are extraordinary. They are, I mean, I could go on for hours about each one of them. They are, they are, I feel very lucky when I come to work that I get to work with them and play. It's like a candy store. And so I would say in the first season, the finale really, for me, was very satisfying and difficult to shoot emotionally, because it was complete emotion. But that's what I love to do the most. Second season, was the global pandemic. We had started shooting for 13 days the second season, and then the pandemic hit, and we threw all those scripts away. And then the third season, which we just gotten all these Emmy nominations for, was all about women's rights, women's reproductive rights, billionaires, everything that we are dealing with in the world today. And I do have favorite moments in all of them, if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your favorite moments.
I would say one of my, well, I'll talk about the most recent season,
Yeah,
the finale. Oh gosh, there were so many. I felt we were in a thriller in the finale this season, because we were. And so the tone changed, it got darker. Um, Alex, of course, found out the real and had to pretend and play, and had to manipulate, and it was just really a great opportunity for Jen Aniston, who is supremely talented, to say the least. She is one of the great actors of our time. I mean, because not only is she a great comedian, she's a brilliant dramatic actress. And so that was so exciting to do all those scenes with her and John. And the chemistry was palpable. It was just dripping off the screen, and
The saying goodbye scene. I mean, so many, but
yes, the saying goodbye scene was just so painful and real and vulnerable, and thinking she had a partner that she could trust. And that so happens to so many people in life. We think we're in a relationship full of trust, in any kind of relation, not just personal, and then the walls come down and you see, who can you really trust? And that was one of the themes of last season and this season coming up. And one of my favorite scenes is with Reese Witherspoon and Billy Crudup when they're in the hallway
Right, yes.
and they're saying goodbye. And it was just, a magical moment. The line that Bradley utters, "I'll miss you," was improvised. She just said it. And it was like, oh. And then Billy was, holding it in. And one of the things I asked him to do, so they leave and you're already in tears. And I said, Billy, okay, let's do, because he just then walked away. And I said, no, let's do a moment where, let me see you physically do something. I won't tell you what it is I want you to do. Just find it. So he's such a brilliant actor. So he's all completely emotional. He is paralyzed. And he, touches the picture on the wall and tries to straighten it.
Yes.
And then he leans against the wall and bends over, and you just feel, all the pain releasing from his body.
This
And
character who's held so much, and it's all on, he keeps it on his face no matter what's happening. He spins it, and then in that moment, you see him be
human. We see him be completely human. And Billy Crudup is one of the, every actor I could just praise to the hills. He is one of the deepest, smartest, kindest, but giving actors I've ever worked with. And he works so hard. He has to say all those monologues, and you can't rewrite them, because just to memorize that stuff, and then it just comes flying out of his mouth like it doesn't, like there's no effort whatsoever. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of effort in that work. He's magnificent. He is extraordinary, and he cares so much. And it's so much fun because we just go in there and we work it. And
yes.
all the actors, are accessible, and available. And it's, it's a very unique situation when you have such an extraordinary cast. And I would say this year there's a lot of shows, and I mean, most great shows have great casts, and that's why they work, and great writing and directing. And there's a lot to be said about television in this era that we are in. And I know I've been very fortunate to be playing the playground of this era, with The Leftovers, Damon Lindelof, oh my God, one of the great writers of all time. And this year we have Charlotte Stroud, who is writing some beautiful, beautiful sequences and story, and her merry band of writers. So it's a truly collaborative effort on any show. And if anyone says differently, they're lying. It's not true.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe it was in the Times I read the quote where you said that you make space for the actors to take big swings. And I feel
Yeah.
like the example that you gave lets us into that creative process. How, as the producing director, you're on the whole season and you're sort of guiding what happens, but every actor needs something different. How, especially for the newer directors listening
Yeah.
to this conversation, what does that look like for you in that creative process of working with actors who just the different kinds of techniques?
Well, they're all different, and they all have different methods to their work. And so when you're first working with an actor, you don't know what that method is. You start rehearsal, you get on the set, and you see who brings it in the first couple of takes and who needs 7 takes to get it up, theoretically, to, find it. And I would say that, we have this group of actors that come in so prepared. I mean, we definitely find it in the room, but there's so much preparation that each actor takes to get there. And it's just fascinating especially when you're a newer director, to understand it and listen to it, and don't go in with any preconceived notions of what you think it's going to be working with that actor. I don't intellectualize with actors very often. We talk about what it's about, but I don't really start directing them until we're on the floor. I remind them of where we've been, where we're going, what their arc has been. And then I don't really I direct with the camera, and, direct with, how the frame enhances what the frame tells us about what they're about to say. And, sometimes there are no words, and it's the camera that is speaking and bringing out the emotion of those actors. I like to do big landscape shots. I like to do big shots, so you see it, but mostly it lives here, because that's where it is, right there. It's the window into the soul, and that's really true. And I think new directors have to really just trust their instincts. It's all about instinct and smarts. You have to know the material inside and out. Like when I'm doing in any, not just in television, but anything I do, if I'm doing a movie, for example, I'll write a whole history of what that character is. And it's all taken from my discussions with the writer, and it's all my imagination. And you do that to some extent in television, in terms of, the characters are, when you're working on a pilot, it's just the pilot. That's all there is. And you're making it up, who this character is, what their background is, what their, relationship with their parents were, what was their childhood like? Did they have a childhood? Were they ignored? Were they loved? And all of that comes out in who they are as adults, right? We all are a product of our upbringing. And in creating a character, I think you have to look at all that, but I don't think you have to talk too much about it until the right time. I rehearse a scene, put it on its feet, and then when we're rolling and I'm seeing what's coming out, that's when I start, working really hard with the actor, because there's always something a character wants. And I think when you know what that is, that's the key to the beginning of getting to right to the core of what it is that scene's about. And whose point of view is it from? I'm always thinking, hey, this may be a big party and everything, and there's 100 people, and there's beautiful lights, and it looks amazing. But whose point of view is it? Who's walking into the party? What are they seeing? Why are they there? Who are they looking for? What happens when they get there? So, and how are they going to approach it? And with what action are they going to approach it? What is the physical action, connected to the emotional action? And so this is the stuff I think about all the time, and the thing I work on with actors. Does that sound like a bunch of craziness?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredibly helpful. And I'd love to add to that conversation, because you mentioned camera framing, composition, the sort of scale and scope, but also the sort of depth and breadth when you're in those big, beautiful close-ups. I want to talk about energy, movement. I think there's so much energy, especially in the crisis and the emergency and the moving down the hallways, and what happens when folks get trapped into the studio or something. There's a lot of push and pull with energy. And in
Yeah,
the finale specifically, you did some really beautiful work with slow motion, right? When are those moments to sort of slow down a piece or a look? When are you like compressing time and getting us there? If you could
sure.
just talk about camera, movement, energy, a little bit of pace,
Yeah.
that sort of
Well,
designing that.
and I think you're talking about, I can talk about the scene where, Alex has planned, here's where she's going to corner Paul, John Hamm, the billionaire. And so she comes in with him. Everything's all right. She's still looking at him in the hallway. Are you going to come clean? Do I have to do this? She's still looking for an ounce. And he's like, to tell her the truth. She's just looking for the truth. That's all she wants. And so they go in, and I had her walk around the table to the head of the table. And I decided I needed to be totally in her head, take out all the sound and have her just, so I went 48 frames. And I actually ramped it, which means I started at 24 frames a second. And then I took it to 48. And I just stayed on her in her head for an uncomfortable amount of time. Like, why are you staying on that close up so long? But I just wanted to see the wheels turning in Jen's head. And then I knew I wanted to end the scene with her turning and slamming that purse on the table, and the music cuts off, because we were playing this classical piece. And I mean, that's how I designed it. And, I think we got into her head. Am I going to do this? Can I do this? Do I have the strength to do this? The man I love, can I do this? And anyway, that's was, I designed pretty much everything. And, I also remain very open. I block everything. Prep is everything. Prep is harder than shooting. You're imagining it all. It's the dream time, which is the great time, but it's also like, this is what I imagine. And then you get to the set, and pretty much I do what I planned, but I am so open to, hey, that doesn't quite work. Let's do it this way. An actor wants to go there instead of here. Okay, let's go there. What does that tell us? How can we do that? I think you, as a young director, when I was a young director, I still have three, you have your A plan. This is my A. This is how I want to do it. Then you have your B story, how your B plan, and you have your C plan. And then you throw it all out, and I have no plan. Let's just see, let's just remain open to, let's rehearse, get on your feet. Okay, this is what I want to do. Obviously it takes many years to have that sort of instinct. Maybe for some people it doesn't, but it takes a while to actually get that kind of confidence. If you're making your own little indie film and you have this finite amount of time and you have your own money and this is what you're doing and this is how I'm going to do it. But, when you're on a schedule, I mean, it's also any schedule. There are, there's time, there's money. Here's the time you have allotted to do this. And, you don't want to shoot the schedule. You want to shoot the scene. You want to shoot the show. You want to shoot the creative. That's always the first. I know I'm going off on these tangents here,
No, it's beautiful.
but for a new director, it takes time to get the confidence to throw your ideas away and see what's right in front of you.
And I want to amplify a couple of things you said. You said you have to know the story. And the prep process is really that time that you have with the script. I teach a lot of blocking and prep, and when I'm not directing episodic, I'm a professor.
Amazing.
And then people always ask, well, who do you show your plans to? I'm like, sometimes nobody. They're my plans. It's my homework, so that when you get on set, you can play, as you're saying. You can listen and pay attention. I don't have to worry about what exactly is this, because I know it, because I've prepped it. And
Yeah.
only if and when something goes wrong or it pours rain and you have to readjust or something,
Yes.
then you can very clearly say, okay, these are the things I have to achieve. But I think that I just wanted to amplify the story, the prep, and that sometimes you can share your homework when there's stunts or set piece or something where everyone has to be in sync on that. But I think the instinct that you were talking about your director's instinct and trusting.
Yeah. And you just have to really watch what the actor is doing. What are they doing and how they're doing it? And what does it make you feel? And is that the feeling you want the story to be? Is that how you want the story told? Do you want it told? There's just so many different ways to tell a story. And mostly great actors have great instincts. Actors are super smart. Most of them are so smart, it's insane. It's like, wait, you're too smart for me. I just I'm just going on instinct here. I don't know what you're talking about. No, no, not really. But you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I like to bring things down to a very simple level, a
Yeah.
human level,
Yeah.
an emotional level. Um,
That's
anyway,
why it resonates. That's why your work lands so beautifully and you're nominated for Outstanding Directing this season because of that detail of just watching, being present, and then shaping, right? As a director, it's sort of using the tools to shape beautifully what the actor has brought in front of you.
thank you. This is
Story.
fun.
You mentioned sound in the scene, in that really compelling scene. Also, music. I think you're doing some exceptional work with the layering of audio storytelling. Certainly, the dialogue is sharp and smart, but then those moments of high volume and then silence, the score, the music. At the ending of the season, the Three Little Birds version that's haunting and sweet and hopeful, and
Yes,
also just that tone. Is there anything you can share about your approach to sound music?
absolutely. I mean, music and sound is everything. And I work with incredible editors who have great instincts. It takes a village. Carol Kravitz edited the finale, and she also edited the pilot and the finale of season one as well. And she has such great musical instincts. For example, I'm going to go back to the finale of the first season. Um, so I'm trying to remember the story, but Alex comes out of Fred Micklin's office and she goes down the stairs and she's just sold ship down the river. And and I found this, it was written for an elevator. And I went, no. And I saw these escalators and I said, okay, we're going to shoot on the escalators. She's going to come down. He's going to go up. They're going to cross each other. And it's going to be, oh, I can't look at him, and he can't look at her. And then Fred fires him. But in that scene, so I directed the scene. I thought, well, that's pretty damn good. And then, but it was so much better when Carol was done with it because she edited it brilliantly. And then she put opera over it. And I was sitting in the editing room just sobbing, going, oh my God, Carol, you're a genius. And so then as the finale kept going, we went more for opera, and and so we had this whole end sequence where Hannah, the character Hannah Schoenfeld, kills herself, and everybody is out of their minds, and Carol put classical music right through to a long sequence. I had this ridiculous fist fight with Steve Carell and Mark Duplass, where they're beating the shit out of each other, and they're these middle-aged white guys, hitting each other, and it looked ridiculous, and they weren't really, you know what I mean? They're not like, and they were like on the floor rolling around going, yeah. And it was so incredible when the opera was attached to it, and it just gave it such depth of feeling, and it made it funny, and it made it ridiculous, and it made it powerful. So music can take you so many places. I mean, and you try different things in the editing room, and that's what's so exciting. When you decide to play something with no music, it doesn't need it. It just needs, a sound effect. Like the end of the finale of season one, Mitch Kessler he's done. His life is over. I put him at that table and I did a simple shot where it's over, it's still. And there was this black table that had a reflection, very shiny. You could see him. So he was kind of in his own little pool. And I did this zoom dolly, to give that effect. And I did a pullback. I was pulling back and zooming in at the same time. And it gave this weird feeling. But we had music to it. I went, yeah, take the music out. I don't like it. It doesn't work. And so I said, let's try some wind. Let's just put some wind in there. Let's go Fellini. let's, put some wind in there. And that's what we did. And hey, we thought it was pretty cool. But it was just, you look at it and you go, does it work? Does it work? What does it make me feel? And that's what it's all about. Is it telling the story? Why do I need music I didn't need music in that moment. We didn't, to enhance his, where he was, the death of his life, the death of his character. It was all on his face. And the wind just kind of, metaphorically, like he was blowing in the wind. And it was so subtle. You go back and listen, and you go, is that wind? What is that? It may not sound like anything to anybody, but you're not supposed to really even feel like it's wind. It just, what does it make you feel? How did that make you feel? Anyway, so you do that. And that's what's so wonderful about editing, and editing with brilliant editors who, Carol at the end of that shot, we were looking for a song and for the end title. And she just found this really cool little French song. And she put it, I went, wow, that makes no sense. I said, but oh my God, I love it. It's just perfect. I didn't know why it was perfect. It's just like, I think when you go through such an emotional episode, you need something that completely doesn't play into it, but plays away from it. So you can breathe.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we had, so Three Little Birds, I'm going to go back to that in the season 3 finale. So it was really interesting. The beginning of the episode has young Bradley, right? And we learn that her father killed a kid because he was drunk driving, and Bradley turns him in. And that sequence was much longer than what was in there. And we played a version of Three Little Birds over that sequence. Yeah, you never saw it because we took it out. So we shortened the sequence quite a bit. So it was just like little moments. We made it very short. So it was like, you're just getting glimpses of a young Bradley and why she is the way she is, that she turned her father in for the hit and run. And she had to live with that her whole life. And, that damage that caused her really said a lot about who she was, cutting to her sitting on the bed, having this memory. Okay, so we do the whole, we're putting music in the episode, and I always intended it to bookend it with the first Three Little Birds by another artist that was more haunting, or a different haunting, more childlike haunting. And then when I took that out, I was like, well, I still want to use Three Little Birds, this haunting version. I can't remember the artist that did the cover.
Was the Elder Sisters, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And it just worked. And that scene was so, it was the last day of the shoot of that season that we shot that scene. So saying goodbye was also in there. And everybody was highly emotional. Everybody was crying. And the actors were so focused on, they're always focused, but they were super focused on the end, on saying goodbye. Am I doing the right thing? Jen is saying, you're doing the right thing. But they don't know what their future is going to be. And so I did another use of slow-mo. I wanted to shoot each character walking into their future. And I wanted to do it I wanted to be on Reese's face, and then I wanted to be on Jen's face. And that's how I did it.
Yeah.
With Three Little Birds. And it just,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just worked. Sometimes it doesn't work, but this worked. Thank
But
God.
it works. It works beautifully. This is why you're nominated for Outstanding Direction for this season finale. I mean, it is incredible.
Thank you.
Mimi, thank you. You have been
Um,
just generous in this conversation. Thank you for your work and for your tenacity. Your career has really been something that is important to so many of us, especially women directors in the DGA who are in your footsteps and love what you share, what you do, and that you're willing to pull back the curtain for us in the craft of directing. It means
Thank
so,
you.
so much.
Thank
So
you.
thank
I feel very lucky to be able to direct and to tell stories. And I feel very, very grateful for this life. And I'm still here.
Yes, making incredible work on to season 4. I'd ask you for spoilers, but I know that can't happen. So
Yeah, no can do.
until next season drops, then our conversation will continue. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.